And now we come to our Philippines-China focus. And of course, this week, it was the ASEAN Summit in Vientiane, Laos, where you had a flurry of conferences. ASEAN, ASEAN plus 3, East Asia Community, ASEAN Economic Community, and so on. There were very, very many meetings simultaneously. The countries and the groups there taking advantage of all the world leaders gathering. And of course, the star of the show was our very own President Duterte. The whole world was electrified by perceptions of his very, very tough attitude to U.S. interference with his policies and his campaign against the drug menace in the country. The controversy really was over the remarks reacting to Obama's lecturing of the Philippine president. What are your impressions? Let's start with Rod.
Actually, President Duterte did not lecture the President of the United States. It was just triggered by an ethical question raised by a Filipino journalist. And in that case, Duterte simply reacted to that question. And when he uttered nasty words against the President of the United States, it was not really addressed to the President. That should have been clarified, as I said earlier. That should have been clarified by the spokesman of President Duterte. And then, the only thing is that, the only thing that changed, I should say, the perception, if I may call it that way, is that later on, President Duterte, some sort of tried to rub it in by trying to present slides about Philippine-American war.
In my view, all's well that ends well, because it ended well for Duterte. It showed Duterte defiant, and it had Duterte expressing the 100 years of simmering rage of Filipinos against this imperial power that in the past 50 years maybe has tried to snowpake all these historical facts. I think his presentation to the forum and to the press there in the ASEAN Summit of the Buj Daho massacre, that image, I wonder if we have that, if we can put that in, really showed the historical truth. And that is the only correct place the Philippines can begin its liberation. Celso.
Well, 90% of politics is really perception. Even David Nye said, never mind about reality, it's really the narratives. No? And maybe the reason why Duterte was a rock star, even Japan's Premier Abe told him that you're quite popular in Japan, is because people, no, regardless of nationality and culture, are looking for a leader who is non-compromising. And Duterte is perceived as such. No? Like for example, the narratives that came out, no, as what Rod said, no, the spin that the media did. You see narratives that we lost millions of dollars from that
We don't, by the way, that should be clarified. They say the stock market went down because of, that's a lot of bullshit, because stock market all over the place in the region was going down. There are financial factors there, not political.
But the bottom line, who needs who? The Americans need us more than we need them.
That's right. Good point. Very important point.
When I was with the Board of Investments, these so-called investments are nothing. It's really the remittances of the OFWs that keep our economy afloat. No? So I think it's about time that we should cut this umbilical cord. It should have been cut long time ago. America did nothing to us but exploit us.
And speaking of investment, as was mentioned earlier, it is China that is actually investing all over the world with the AIIB, the New Development Bank, and it is not the U.S.
U.S. is broke, actually.
That's right, Rod, anything to add there?
Well, first, let me clarify this. Talking of investment, You have to clarify first the old system, developmental investment. But America is simply engaged in direct investment, which has something to do with their companies. But when you talk of developmental investment, just like what AIIB now is doing, it will help improve the economy of this nation. The United States is selling us arms, and which means that we are the one indirectly sustaining the American economy. That's you have to clarify. We have to clarify that. And another thing is that American investment is no longer significant as it was in the 50s and in the 60s. When China is about to surpass the United States in terms of even in direct investment, not to mention the developmental aid it is giving to most ASEAN countries, and that includes the Philippines, despite the fact that we have a problem in the China Sea before under the Aquino administration. I just hope we can improve our relations with China, settle the problems that we have there, and then China might continue.
Yes. Well, Duterte is not the only star. I think the Philippines was the star in the ASEAN Summit because President Duterte was giving and expressing the sentiment of the entire nation, which supports his programs, the anti-drug program, anti-criminality program, and so he had a clear message this time in ASEAN that was unique from this country. I cannot recall an ASEAN meeting where the Philippines figured so prominently. You have any reaction to that?
Well, again, as I said, it's the perception. They perceive him as a very strong leader, not only by words, but even by actions.
Yeah, as you said, the Japanese premier was very eager to invite him to Japan. You know? And I think we'll see more of this star quality from President Duterte when it comes to international affairs. He has been telling people that he is far more interested in foreign policy than people get the impression because he was a mayor of Davao. Yeah, you were going to add, or Rod? Yeah.
I would like to point this out. Extrajudicial killing against those involved in the trafficking, in the sale and distribution of illegal drugs should be differentiated from extrajudicial killing for political reasons.
That's right, yeah.
When you talk of extrajudicial killing, it is a policy of the state to get rid of a problem. It's a problem that should be treated as a purely domestic problem. When you talk of extrajudicial killing for political reasons, then perhaps international law or foreign organizations can intervene and can ask us, well, stop it or inquire what's happening there. But in the case of Duterte, he's simply enforcing a domestic policy. In fact, I'm not saying that we have been committing that. It has to be investigated, verified. But nonetheless, it is unfair for the United States to issue such statement because many people in the United States are also involved in drugs, and many of them are killed by their own policemen, and nobody opens his mouth questioning them on that issue.
Yes, and the total disproportionate attention by the American government, represented by Obama, to these 2,000 so-called killings, when we're talking about Syria, Yemen, Libya, where chaos is reigning, and you're talking about casualties that run to the hundreds of thousands. So, obviously, this was just a ploy of the Americans to put down the Philippines, as they have done so for the past 100 years.
And besides, they cannot control Duterte. He's not an amboy, so they're
That's
looking
right.
for a convenient excuse to throw mud at him.
Yes.
No? In fact, there were speculations that Duterte will be charged at the International Criminal Court, which is an American court.
It is an American court. It is not a UN court, by the way. Let us remind everybody. It is not a UN. Just like the PCA, the Permanent Court of Arbitration is not a UN body.
It's an American
It is
court.
neither permanent, nor a court, nor engaged in arbitration.
Oh, by the way.
But they can control the narrative, as David Nye said, and the perception in the mainstream media in the Philippines. So many Filipinos have been misled by this.
By the way, extrajudicial killing, the use of drones is also an
Precisely,
extrajudicial killing.
yeah.
They're also engaged in extrajudicial killing.
The worst type, because
The worst type.
they cannot determine who their target is. Children, women, mothers.
Murder.
In Afghanistan, in Iraq, Pakistan, and so
Yemen.
Well, okay, so Duterte is the ASEAN Star. I think there's no question with some Filipinos trying to denigrate Duterte, that the truth is he is a shining example of an independent leader who is taking action in behalf of his people about or against major problems of society. Now, the next question is the economy. I think we will discuss that in the later segment. Apparently, there is great hope also in Duterte's management of the economy with his better relations with China now. What do you think?
Well, precisely. I personally, I myself have seen how China helped their Southeast Asian neighbors, no, pouring developmental investment all over, infrastructures, capitals, no, and with this improved relationship with China, I'm very optimistic that our economy will improve, no, and domestically the peace and order situation will eventually get better.
And you know, one of the thoughts that has always been in my mind lately is, in the end, it is the market that decides. And the size of a market is also the potential for its political and economic significance. For a long time, it was America with 350 or 20 million population. That's a big market. But now you're looking at a 1.3, 1.4 billion market that is becoming rich. India is another market, but it's going to take some time before they create a middle class that is large enough to absorb global imports. Rod, maybe you can close this this segment.
Well, actually, first is it, the future of China is dependent on ASEAN. A developed ASEAN is equally advantageous to China. China cannot take on ASEAN as a baggage. In the same manner that today, the United States is more of a baggage to the ASEAN rather than something that it can provide, they can obtain benefit. That is how China looks at the relationship with ASEAN. Xi Jinping must probably have in mind that we have to develop ASEAN for our own good also.
That's right.
We cannot do that. We cannot be surrounded by countries of, how do you call that, hand-me-down or poor, beggar thy neighbor.
Beggar thy neighbor, which was mentioned by Xi Jinping in his speech. But we have run out of time. So China, the Philippines, Duterte, and Asia is the star for this 21st century. Okay, let's take this break.